Coach's Corner is presented by Roanoke Valley Harley-Davidson. Stop by their store on Peters Creek Road for new and used motorcycles, service and repair, along with Harley-Davidson clothing and collectibles. Hello and welcome in to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mitch, Stewart, and this morning I'm joined by Dawgs head coach Dan Bremner. Dan, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
You guys have gotten on a little bit of a heater here lately. 4 wins in a row. You get your first weekend sweep of the season here at home against the Quad City Storm this past weekend. What was your assessment across those 2 wins, the 6-3 win on Friday night and then the 7-6 overtime victory on Saturday?
Great to get points early in the season. Obviously catching a little bit of fire, which is great. Again, though, I think our focus has to be on doing it the right way. We had a ton of success last year in the regular season. And we had a lot of games that felt the same way as Saturday's game. We'd fall behind, a little different that we'd fall behind and then be able to score on command. And it seemed like that was kind of Saturday. We got a little bit of a lead, we let off, and we felt like we could score on demand and kind of get ourselves back in it. And obviously ended up being a very close game that we let it go a little too far. So we got to make sure we're dialing in the back end and making sure we're playing solid D. We got to keep the puck out of the net, and it's not solely on our goalies. It's that as a team we're not playing very good defense right now.
You used the phrase being able to score on demand, and it felt like Nick Ford and Joe Widmar, whether they were with Jacob Kelly or Gustav Mueller throughout those last 4 or 5 periods of the weekend, they were scoring on demand. It felt like every time they were out on the ice. How impressed were you by the way that duo played? And then on the flip side now, with Widmar heading to the ECHL in Bloomington, how do you make sure you can keep the captain rolling with Nick Ford having so much production here early on in this season?
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit about that this morning, actually. The two of them, we were kind of joking around that I think, not to take anything away from who their line mate was one night or the other, but I think the two of them are the best line in the league, and plug in somebody who's going to have a very good night. They found each other really quickly. The chemistry was there for sure. And the big thing is I think they trusted each other. I think sometimes when you don't see chemistry working, it has to do with trust. And it's, am I going to move the puck and we're going to still have possession? Is it going to get lost, or are we going to make a play that ends up coming back the other way? And they trusted that they were going to maintain possession every time they moved it to each other. So, yeah, obviously huge weekend from both of them. Widmar taking a call up with Bloomington. We knew that when he was coming in, that's kind of his focus, is continue to climb as best he can. It's funny, he's a unique individual where you might look at it like coming up on 30. On the other hand, like he's got such a young personality, young youthful energy about him that he continues to chase it, and I wish him the best. And you never know how things go through the season, so we may see him back at some point, we may not. The focus for our guys now is like kind of pick up some of the things that we did well over the weekend. The two of them did well together, and Ford, he did a ton individually well this weekend too. So it wasn't necessarily reliant on the duo. He had that shorthanded opportunity that he buried. He was up and down the ice. He seemed to get a confidence lift through Friday, carried right into Saturday. So we'll be looking for him to kind of keep that confidence going.
You mentioned some of the defensive issues or the ups and downs at that end of the ice throughout the early part of the season. The good news is now you get John McDonald back from the ECHL and you bring CJ Valerian in off the injured reserve. How big of an impact can those two guys bring to the table just within that defenseman group? I know you mentioned the team defense overall, but that duo together, what can they kind of bring to the table for you guys here heading into the weekend?
I mean, 6 deep, you had 2 that are top guys for you that play the game the right way, hard, heavy in our own end. It changes your lineup completely, and it changes your depth of that defensive core. So we're pumped to have them both back. On the weekend, it's one of those games, and you don't want to let yourselves off the hook saying it seemed like every mistake we made ended up being a big mistake, a breakaway or a 2-on-1, or tripped for a breakaway. I think it was the tying goal. You don't want to let yourselves off the hook, so you want to look at it and make sure that we're limiting those chances. And in the first 9 games so far this year, we've let up way too many odd man rushes. Our D are going to be focused on making sure that there's nobody behind us.
You bring in a new face this week with Cameron Clark making his way here from the Binghamton Black Bears in the FPHL. Another former SUNY Morrisville Mustang making the trip down here to Roanoke. What have you seen from his game early on in the year with the Black Bears that made you want to bring him in with the Rail Yard Dawgs?
So Clark started with bingo last season, actually, with Woody down there, and we're lucky with having Woody up in Binghamton. I think you say it, Binghamton. Yeah, I always messed that up.
Nailed it.
Got it. But with having him up there, it's built-in scouting, and he's always trying to push up young guys that are kind of getting it. And he started a little slow. And the last little while, he's really been playing well. So, Woody had him on our radar pretty early in the year. And opportunity comes. The roster's changed so fast here. So, opportunity comes, and we're excited to see what he can do this weekend.
You guys end up hitting the road this weekend, tomorrow night against the Knoxville Ice Bears. Then on Friday, you get another good challenge with the Huntsville Havoc on the road. What are you kind of expecting from those two teams? It's a Knoxville team, I know, that looks very different from last year. Huntsville, pretpretty similar to last year's roster. How can you guys make sure that you get some good results here on the road this weekend?
I think our focus has to be on us. I was talking to the guys this morning about we're going to scout both teams. We're going to take a look, but first time we're playing both teams, and it's back-to-back nights on the road. So our focus has to be looking at our games last weekend, correcting what we can, and playing what we should do, still establishing our identity. Especially on that defensive side. When it comes to Knoxville, much more disciplined team this year. They're lowest in the league, or second lowest in the league when it comes to PIMs. So I think we'll be looking at a different game than we've played the last few years against them. And they have guys that can put the puck in the net. So we not a team to take lightly this season. And then on the other side, Huntsville, consistent, very similar to last year, the team that put us out. So I hope to see, whether it's back-to-back on the road or not, I hope to see some fire out of our guys.
Well, Dan, thanks for your time here today. Happy early birthday to you, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, Mitch.
That's going to do it for this episode of Coach's Corner. The Dawgs on the road this weekend in Knoxville and Huntsville, but back home next week, the night before and the night after Thanksgiving. Make sure to get your tickets now by calling our front office or going to railyarddogs.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your day.